The following is a presentation of the Mat Talk Podcast Network.
You are now tuned in to the PA Power Podcast, College Edition, featuring Pennsylvania natives Tristan Warner and Rob Waltko. PA Power Wrestling. PA Power Wrestling. Pennsylvania is wrestling.
Pennsylvania wrestling fans, you are now dialed into the PA Power Wrestling College Podcast. I'm your co-host Tristan Warner, joined by Rob Waltko for Season 3, Episode 15. As always, thank you for joining us. Rob, we got some big-time matches that happened this past week and weekend to cover. Then we got some good wrestling coming up here this week to preview as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the highlight was the Iowa-Penn State match. It's only fitting that we'll have Mike Evans on the episode later to talk about his time at Iowa and his coaching style down at Campbell. But let's jump into that, Tristan. I know that you watched the match intently on Friday, as did many of us. What were your thoughts?
Man, I will say, I think a lot of people wrote Penn State off going into this one. I think, I had some coworkers and me. We were taking like some gentlemen's bets on the final score, and I think everybody had Iowa in a complete blowout. I think that was kind of the consensus. You saw a lot of articles floating around about why Iowa will dominate this dual meet and yada, yada. At the end of the day, I think you have to remember that this is Penn State. Even when they have a team that's not fully healthy and not, the same squad that was a couple of years ago with, 5 guys in the national finals, it's still Penn State at the end of the day. Kale's their coach. They're extremely well coached, even guys you wouldn't expect rise to the occasion. So I think they did just that at a lot of weights. They just didn't have enough in the final few bouts to pull this one off, and hats off to Iowa for capitalizing, winning the matches that they needed to win. Some specific guys on their team looked really, really good and were able to, clutch it in Carver Hawkeyes. So, just to recap, Iowa 19-17 came down to the final bout. Started off at 125. Spencer Lee very easily teched Brandon Meredith. 133. Was one of the matches that we talked about, Rob, that I think another one that a lot of people were kind of counting out RBY. I think a lot of people had DeSanto winning this one easily, and that didn't happen. Clearly, this match didn't even go the full distance of the first period. Twice DeSanto got in on a shot, and RBY, that seems to be his go-to move. He gets in that front headlock, he pulls that ankle out nicely and locks up a near side cradle. And twice in a row, he started running DeSanto over, and DeSanto yelled out of it. And then, the ref stopped it. After the second time, both times I think RBY was definitely getting takedown and some near fall counts out of that. Who knows if he would have pinned him or not. But, Brands eventually pulled him after the second one and then made some comments later about it, saying that, he thought DeSanto probably could have kept wrestling based on the injury. But I don't know, I guess something about mentally, he didn't want him in the match. I don't know. What was your take on the match, Rob? All I can say is that RBY really rose to the occasion in that hostile atmosphere.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I was talking with someone the other day, and it's hard to judge, right? None of us are doctors. I've seen guys get absolutely leveled or get their knee twisted up and pop up fine. I've seen guys, slip on a banana peel and tear everything up. So I don't want to judge either way. Brand's comments, though, I thought were a bit telling. I think DeSanto maybe had a more of a mental lapse, or it freaked him out more than anything. I'm sure he got hurt. It's not that he's faking it, but I think maybe it was over exaggerated. Maybe he had more trouble dealing with it than anything. But I mean, hats off to Bravo Young. He came out and looked good for the match that was wrestled. I think he's a real contender, and I'm looking forward to him wrestling Seth Gross hopefully this weekend.
Yeah, I think he showed that everyone knew he was good, and knew he was great, I should say. But I think he just proved that, with that 2.5 minute match, whatever it was alone, that he's a top tier guy. He's in contention with all those guys. He's right there with Gross and Rivera and DeSanto. So hats off to him. He looked good. Also, Tom Brand's got a team point deducted in that part of the match, which could have been really costly for Iowa. Ended up not being, but, they won by 2. So, that could have, like I said, that could have ended up being costly. I guess he yelled something about Penn State wrestling dirty or something like that. Not exactly sure what merit he has there. But moving up in the weight classes, Nick Lee, Techfald, Carter Happel looked really good. 149, as expected, Lugo got a decision win over Verclaren. At 57, Caleb Young didn't do a whole lot, but did enough to beat Bo Pfeiffer. and then, get a decision win for Iowa there. And then we moved up to 65, which was probably one of the best matches, maybe the best match of the night, arguably, with 65 and 74. So Cenzo and Marinelli, 2 undefeated guys, 1 and 2 going at it. And, these guys really battled it out. Cenzo was able to hit a filthy lateral drop and get a 6-point move, and that was pretty much the difference of the match. I think it ended up like 8-6 or so. So that was really the difference. What did you think of that one?
I want to ask you this. Do you think Cenzo baited him into pushing? Because that first period, Marinelli looked very, very comfortable. Cenzo didn't really go for the inside trip, but Marinelli was locking up that body lock, and then all out of nowhere, Cenzo puts him on his dome. Do you think that was intentional, or he just felt it?
It's tough to say. I think Cenzo is so comfortable in that position. Like, it's kind of surprising if you know a guy like Cenzo who's won 2 national titles off that over-under inside trip position. I would be thinking, I'm not getting anywhere near that guy, but I guess that's credit to Marinelli for being confident in that position. And he was really, like you said, he was leading the charge into that. He was not backing away from the position at all. There was a couple times where it looked like he was almost going to score off of the over-under. So honestly, credit to both guys. Credit to Marinelli for, not backing down in that situation. And then credit to Cenzo for weaseling out of everything that was thrown his way and then capitalizing on a huge moment and tossing him right on his dome.
Yeah, no, pretty crazy stuff. 74, man, that match, inspiring is the only word I could use. Kemmerer just seemed like he wanted to win that one really bad, and sometimes that's all it takes. I shouldn't say that's all it takes, but that can overcome a lot of things. How impressed were you with him? Because I walked away thinking, man, this kid's a stud. Oh,
yeah, he was extremely impressive. He just went out there, looked like from the get-go, that was a match he was not losing. Hall came out. It was interesting. There's a couple articles I saw on the internet right before the match. Both of them were, Penn State articles written, and they were focused on the fact that Hall, the only time he had wrestled in Carver Hawkeye before in that dual meet, he went out against Alex Meyer, who was an opponent that, was tough, but not on Mark Hall's level. And, the point of the article was that he, kind of fell victim to the atmosphere, I guess you could say. And he was a freshman. You got to say that. You got to mention that. But, it basically was talking about how Hall knew what he was walking into. He knew
it was his first official match.
Yeah,
he wrestled there last time.
Exactly. So this time coming around, I think the point of the article was to say that he knows what he's stepping into. He knows what kind of atmosphere it is. He knows what's on the line here. So I almost feel like Hall compensated for the last time and went out there first 5 seconds and tries to headlock the number 2 guy in the country undefeated. It wasn't anything dangerous that he put himself in bad position or anything. But it almost just seems like he blew his gas tank early. He went out there almost like he had too much adrenaline and just kind of blew it all in the first period. And both guys wrestled a really good first period. I think they traded takedowns. And then Kemmerer just turned it on, had a gas tank that just went. He looked like he could wrestle that pace for 30 minutes out there. And I think Hall just gasped at the end. And Kemmerer's attacks were extremely solid in the third, and I don't think Hall really had an answer for him. His feet were looking kind of sluggish. And, credit to Kemmerer for rising to the occasion, and both guys just put on a show, really. I mean, win or lose in that match, both guys wrestled really well, wrestled tough. Hall just didn't really look like he had it at the end.
Do you think he gassed out, whatever, or do you think he's just not used to wrestling that type of match? Because he's usually so controlled, he gets a takedown, he can ride you. I mean, Kemmerer just made him wrestle at a fever pitch, and I don't know if I've seen Hall in that many matches. I mean, how often do you see him give up a reversal at the end of the period, for Pete's sake?
No, and I think that's part of it too. Like I said, I think I think he kind of, the adrenaline maybe got to him. It almost seems like he died out a little bit. But also, like you said, he wrestles he's extremely quick and athletic, but he wrestles a very methodical pace sometimes. Kind of reminds me of Ed Ruth, how he could be extremely explosive and quick when he wanted to be, but the rest of the match he would kind of pick and choose when he was going to burst and when he was going to rest. And he didn't really have any time to do that in this one. Kemmerer never stopped. He was moving the whole time. He was attacking. He was finishing his shots extremely quickly. He wasn't giving Hall time to, whizzer and sit on an ankle or anything that he's, used to doing. So, I mean, I think Kemmerer wrestled a perfect game plan, and I don't think Hall was necessarily ready for it or just wasn't used to, like you said, wrestling that pace for that long.
So what do you think of the big boys, Tristan?
I thought Brooks looked really solid. Assad came into that match ranked higher. He didn't really do a whole lot in that one. Brooks pretty much controlled the entire match, so good for him. And then 97 heavyweight was kind of the opposite story. I thought Jacob Warner went out, got a takedown, and then did enough, stayed in the center of the mat, didn't give up any stalls, and Rashid didn't really have any solid attempts. He got in on a leg one time, but got kind of stuck there. He just looks like he isn't 100%. I don't think it's necessarily conditioning because he was moving well. I think he just is rusty. Maybe his timing is off. I don't know. He just didn't really have much pop to his step. And Neville's went out, hit a beautiful shot, was getting ready to finish, and who knows how the match could have been different if he was able to somehow finish that shot. But hats off to Cassiope for extremely good defense for a heavyweight. Neville's was about as close as you could get to finishing that shot, and Cassiope just kind of like leaned in on him and sat him on his haunches, and then from there, I mean, the match was over. That was the first period. Cassiope flattened him out and then just controlled the entire rest of the match. So, unfortunately for Penn State, once that takedown happened, Neville's really didn't have a shot to take that one back, it looked like.
Yeah, with Brooks, I think, I don't even know if he's 100% yet. Maybe I'm just too high on him, but he still looks like he's maybe like a step behind. He's got that big wrap around his knee, his leg. I think he has the potential to just be an absolute superstar. So I'm looking forward to seeing him progress throughout the rest of the year. I think he's going to be a big point scorer for Penn State. And really, if they want to beat Iowa in March, they're going to need him to get some big points.
Yeah, I think you might be right. He's had a couple matches like the one against Venz in Nebraska where he didn't look his best. And then he didn't wrestle on Sunday against Maryland. So I think there might be some truth to what you're saying. I think he's maybe battling a little bit of an injury or some sort. But hopefully he's ready to go by March because I want to see the very best Brooks out there that we can because it's going to be fun to watch him in that pretty tough young weight class. There's a lot of really young superstars at 84.
Yeah, for sure. So what else did you see this weekend? I was actually at the North Carolina State Pitt match. That was a good one. Pitt got beat late in a lot of matches. Like second, third period, it seemed like NC State came on strong, but pretty entertaining nonetheless.
Yeah, so we'll start there, I guess. NC State over Pitt. Any matches stand out to you? I mean, Trent beating Bonacorsi 6-3. Obviously, that was probably the match that I wanted to see the most. What were your impressions of that one?
Trent just looked like he stays in that low stance. His chest is over his leg. Really made it difficult for Nino to get to his legs. In fact, I don't think I've seen Nino be that selective with his shots in the hundreds of times I've watched him wrestle. So, highly took him out of his game for sure.
And then his brother Hayden, I think you even mentioned on the podcast last week that Romani has given Hidley some battles over the years, but not this weekend. Hayden with the tech fall looked pretty dominant. Hayden, ever since he lost to Deacon, he's been on a tear.
Yeah, he looked lights out, man. He looked like an absolute animal. Cole Matthews was actually winning late and got ridden and turned by Wilson, which was a bit surprising. But, yeah, NC State looked good. Harvey with the late takedown over Bullard to win. That was pretty exciting. Wenzel was in the match. NC State's they're a little bit better, but Pitt's definitely making good strides.
Let's move on to some other duels. Penn State, obviously, on Sunday after they lost to Iowa, dominated Maryland. Their only loss came at 25. Where Meredith lost by a point. The rest of them won. I think it was 43-3 was the final. Aaron Brooks and Rashid didn't wrestle, so like we said, maybe they're still banged up or just got an off day there. Let's see. Ohio State beat Maryland, crushed them 43-3. Maybe, I don't know if Penn State and Ohio State both beat Maryland by the same score. It was pretty close if not. Sasso and Pletcher both got a tech fall, so the PA boys look good. And then the next day, Ohio State lost to Nebraska 18-16. It came down to the final match, Isaiah White. I think, from what you guys told me, I think White was a little banged up, but he was able to lock up a cradle at the very end and pin Ethan Smith to get the win for Nebraska. How about that one?
Yeah, weird match. Smith, he just kept shooting while he was winning and fell right into White's trap. Yeah,
so a big win for Nebraska there, beating Ohio State. The PA boys looked good. Luke Pletcher majored Chad Redd. And Sammy Sasso majored Puritan. So very good, solid weekend for both the PA boys at Ohio State. Pletcher continues to just dominate some of the best guys in the country. Sasso is now ranked number 1 in the country after his weekend and after Boo Llewellyn for Oklahoma State got upset by Brock Mahler from Missouri. So Sasso officially number 1 in the polls. So that's 2 back-to-back PA boys for Ohio State, number 1 in the country. How about that?
Yeah, and then they're number 1 at 197 as well. Is quote-unquote down as they might be, they're going to score a lot of points in March if those guys win.
Yeah, and they also have some guys emerging, like Rocky Jordan beat Taylor Venz at 84. I didn't see that coming. That's a guy who's not only young, but, I mean, I think he's clearly wrestling up a weight class, at least one weight class. He's probably a 74-pounder. They kind of bumped him up and thrust him into the lineup after it wasn't really working out for Gavin Hoffman, and Rocky Jordan's really improved as the year's gone on. And then another good win for a PA boy, Mikey Labs beat Romero from Ohio State 3-1 at 174. That's a nice win for him. That's 2 top 10 guys in that one. Oklahoma State 35-3 over South Dakota State. Only match here that featured a PA guy was Dakota Gear, and he was matched up against Tanner Sloan from South Dakota, who is really good. That would have been a really solid top 10 or 15 matchup, but looks like it was an injury default win right at the 3-minute mark for Gear. I'm not exactly sure what happened. I don't know how seriously injured Sloan got. Do you know anything about that, Rob?
No, I don't know how injured he got. 97 seems to be, it's terrible right now. Between him, Reenan, and Bruner all getting hurt, that weight is it's clearing out a little bit.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens there. Hopefully it's not too bad for Sloan, but Gear is I think he's ranked 12th in the latest Intermat poll, so he's kind of ranked right on the cusp of All-American status. We'll see if those 3 guys are able to get healthy come March. Virginia Tech beat Virginia 20-16. That match was actually pretty close. At 141, Brian Courtney, PA boy for UVA, lost to Mitch Moore 10-4. Justin McCoy, 57 for UVA, lost to BC LaPrade 8-5. And Cam Coy was back in the lineup for UVA after suffering an injury in the beginning of the year. He lost to David McFadden 5-1, but I think that's his first match back in a long time.
Yeah, he's been out of the lineup, but glad to see him back in there. Where's Sam Krivis? It seems like he maybe lost his spot to Denton Spencer.
Yeah, that's funny. I was going to ask you the same thing. I was reading the box score, and I randomly just thought of that. I know we spent a lot of time talking about him in the preseason, and then we haven't seen him. I don't know if he's hurt or just, like you said, lost his starting spot. I haven't seen his name in any opens or anything either, though.
No, yeah, I'm not exactly sure. So what else do we have going on, Tristan?
Let's see. Princeton won 27-12 over Harvard and 29-10 over Brown, so 2 similar scores for them. Friend of the program, last week's interview, Travis Stefanik, looked really good, got 2 major decisions. He beat his kid from Harvard 15-6, and he beat Bryce Rogers from Brown 13-3. Rob, I don't know if you know much about him, but I remember Rogers. He hasn't had a great year as a freshman for Brown, but he was a big recruit coming out of Florida. He was a tough kid, so that's a good win. 13-3 for Stefanik. He's looking good now that he's back and healthy. Let's see. Penn beat Brown 20-19 on criteria. That was a little surprising for me team score-wise. I mean, Penn's a team that's really improving. Brown's definitely a young team that's hasn't had a lot of great success this year. A couple upsets here happened to make that dual meet close. Kolioko, who's now ranked in the top 10 for Penn, lost to Trey Keeley 7-6. I looked in the latest Intermat poll, and I don't think Kolioko dropped at all. So I'm not sure exactly what's going on there. Rob, I don't know if you feel the same way as me, but for some reason I'm a little, I guess you could say, bitter when guys who are ranked high lose a match to like a totally unranked guy and then don't drop it all in the polls. I think it comes from, when I was wrestling in my career, I felt like I had to beat so many ranked guys just to even get my name in the top 20. And then if I were to lose a match, to somebody not in the top 20, I'd be dropped out instantly. So it's a little head scratching for me to see that kind of stuff happen. I know we talked about one of the guys last week, might have been McFadden, getting teched by a guy ranked like 15th and then didn't even drop a single number in the polls.
Tristan, I think you need to talk to a therapist. It seems like it's really bugging you.
It does bother me a little bit, I got to say. But, no disrespect to Kolioko. It's just he did have an uncharacteristic loss or 2 there. He also lost to Meredith from Penn State. So, but yeah, he still retains his top 10 ranking. He's obviously super talented, just a young guy. So, I don't know, maybe he just, had a bad day there. Doug Zapp, though, continues to have good days. Majored Pawulski from Brown. He's all the way up to rank 13th in the country at 41 for Penn. So good for him. Cole Urbis, just a freshman, but a solid guy for Penn, won 13-9 in a little bit of a wild match there. Navy beat Drexel 23-15. Two Drexel boys from PA wrestled, but both lost. That's Chase Shields at 133 and Tyler Williams at 41. No Anthony Walters at 84 in this one. He did not compete. But Kozer for Navy won 1-0 over McLaughlin. He's just he's a solid kid. He's getting better every single match. I think he went 2-0 on the weekend. I think he pinned his other kid. So good for Kozer. Cleveland State, they beat Kent State actually 16-15 and dropped a close one to Central Michigan 18-13. Justin Patrick, I think he's a PA boy. I think he's a AA kid. He had a nice weekend at 133 for Cleveland State. He beat Tim Rooney, who I think is ranked for Kent State, 4-3, and then he beat Martin from Central Michigan 11-10. So that's solid. And then McCracken for Kent State at 97. He's the Waynesburg product. He got a win. So anything you noticed in those ones? Cleveland State's much improved this year under Josh Moore.
He's doing an excellent job. I mean, I think they got a long way to go to be where he probably wants to be, but they are much, much improved. So hats off to him. He did a great job when he was an assistant at Kent, and shows he knows how to coach going right down the road to Cleveland State.
Yeah, moving on. American 18-15 win over Binghamton. That was a close one, but Teague Moore's squad was able to prevail there. A good one at 84, not PA guys, but DePrez was able to beat Tanner Harvey 8-6. An all PA heavyweight scrap there. Joe Doyle, he's a Council Rock product, beat Nico Camacho. He's from Bethlehem Catholic 7-1. So that's a win for Binghamton there. Gage Curry for American, PA boy, won 7-1 at 125. And then Trampy, much awaited return. He's been out for quite a bit here at 33. Got a pin for Binghamton. So I'm not sure what was ailing him for the last few months, but good to see him back in action and jumping right back in where he left off.
I think Doyle had been down a little bit too. I don't know those Council Rock guys. They both got the flu together or what, but Binghamton is much improved with those guys and Dupre back on the lineup. So glad to see them back. I'm glad to see Binghamton putting a good product on the map because they were struggling there for a while.
Yeah, we might have to dial up our Southeast Pennsylvania correspondent, Joe Youngblood, to get the update on that one. Columbia beat Franklin and Marshall 25-15. This Gill kid for F&M, though, is pretty good. He got a win over Casimir from Columbia 7-5. And then Hofstra beat Franklin and Marshall 45-3. That was a pretty lopsided win for them, but Gill was the only one who won for Franklin and Marshall. So I think Tyson Dippery over there, the coaching staff, is doing good things for the Dips for those lightweights because Gill's looking pretty tough, and they have a couple other guys in the lighter weights who are more solid in their lineup. Oklahoma State beat on Missouri pretty good. Dakota Gear was able to get a win 10-5 over Wyatt Coling. And then Virginia Tech on Sunday beat Old Dominion 23-9. The only PA representation there was Shane Jones, but he lost to David McFadden 8-2. Arizona State 28-12 over Stanford. Josh Shields dropped a close one to super freshman Shane Griffith 5-3 in double overtime. So that's a little surprising. I know Griffith is a really highly touted freshman, but Shields is a veteran guy, and he's a two-time All-American already. So that's a little surprising to me, but good win for Shane Griffith.
Yeah, no, Griffith is, I should say Shields rather, doesn't lose many bad matches, if any. So I think that says more about Griffith than it does about Shields, if that makes sense.
So we talked to Steve Middich a week or two ago on the program. Bloomsburg was in action this past weekend. They lost to Ohio 28-9. Weird to think that that's now a conference match for them because they're in the MAC. Josh Mason dropped a 5-0 match to DeSabato from Ohio. He's a tough kid, but wasn't able to get the win this weekend. Trevor Allard, though, continues to really wrestle well for Bloomsburg. He won 4-3. He's now 17-1 on the year and ranked number 13 by Intermat. So it'll be exciting to see him wrestle in the postseason and in that MAC conference tournament. He's wrestled, only 18 matches on the year. Hasn't necessarily had the toughest competition, but the few times he has had an opportunity to wrestle a ranked kid, he's done well. So I will definitely be interested to watch him compete in the MAC tournament at 184. UNC beat Duke 44-3. As we talked about last week, Rob, Duke's program's really hurting right now. AC Headley and the heavyweight Gunning were both able to get wins in that one. Lehigh beat Army 24-9. That was a match that we both thought would be pretty close, but Lehigh pretty much dominated that one.
Yeah, Army, I think, needed just about everything to go right to win this dual meet. And, much like the Penn State-Iowa match, if Chenzo loses and DeSanto even keeps it to a decision, Assad wins, like maybe the duel gets out of hand, right? But Lehigh, they took care of business and put it on Army.
Yeah, so Brandon Patzel at 25 beat Shalafo. That's a battle of NCAA qualifiers, 6-3. Andrew Wirt for Army. He's a Central Dauphin kid. He got a win over Faro from Lehigh. No Marcus Hartman in this one. The 57 match was supposed to be a good one with Humphreys and Hartman. That was 9-10. Weiland ended up wrestling for Army, so Humphreys won 3-0, but no Hartman. Jordan Cutler pinned Harvey at 74. That was a good win for him. And then Chris Weiler beat Noah Stewart 7-2. That's a nice win for Weiler. I thought that would be a pretty close match, but Weiler looks like he was able to handle that one.
Yeah, then Bucknell, nice 36-3 win over F&M. Your guy Gill with a win over Campbell, and then Stokes over Pelusi. Pelusi's probably one of F&M's best guys. Navy over American 24-21. Good win for Gage Curry over Treaster 3-2. And then nice win for Camacho over Birchmeyer. UNC took a loss to Bucknell, or Bucknell took a loss to UNC. How about Hartman, though? Sticking Kennedy Monday, man. That was a huge win.
Yeah, how was he able to do that? I'm sure you watched the match.
He gave up the first takedown, got an escape, kind of snaked the takedown off like an over-under and just sunk in a half and ran it, man. If he gets in pinning combinations or gets a Navy or a cradle, he is really, really tough.
That's crazy. So Monday, in a matter of 1 week, Tex McFadden and then gets pinned by Hartman. If you're the rankings guys, I don't really know what you do with a guy like that.
Yeah, it's hard to call, man.
Darren Miller lost to Hernandez 6-2. I know you're very high on him. Hernandez is tough, though. That's a tough loss for Miller, but he's a good guy. I think he could qualify for Bucknell there. AC Headley got an overtime win. I don't know. Was it Fisher for Bucknell? I don't know him very well, but he wrestled Headley pretty tough.
He's really tough. He's a true freshman. He's in great shape, and he's really, really strong. They're pretty high on him. They just said they need to teach him how to wrestle. He's pretty green.
And then UNI 25-13 over Oklahoma. That's, in a matter of 1 week, Northern Iowa just beat Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. That's pretty insane. But your boy Woodley won 5-2. And then how about Blockhouse? He's a freshman, ranked 20th. Took Demas, who is ranked, I think, 3rd or 4th. 9-3 tiebreaker. That's pretty insane. I didn't see it, but Demas must have thrown him or, I don't know, reversed him to his back or something for 4. But 9-3 tiebreaker. It must have been a good match.
Yeah, I didn't get to see it, but those UNI guys are tough. Schwab's doing a really good job down there.
And then really the last thing to recap here, the Edinburgh Open, always a late season tournament, kind of geared toward not only red shirts and backups, but also some starters that need to improve their winning percentage or their RPI, trying to get some extra matches. So the biggest storyline from this, I guess, Carter Starachi just continues to impress for Penn State, pretty much proving, I don't know, that he's, in most college lineups, he'd be a starter and he'd be ranked in the top 10 right now, I would say. Obviously stuck behind Mark Hall at Penn State and redshirting wisely. But let's see, a couple interesting tidbits here. Fellman for Lock Haven won the 133 weight. Had a close match with Jarrett Lane from Lehigh, who ended up getting 3rd. Julian Claybove was cited here at the tournament. Had a couple decent wins at 141. Beat the McGonigal kid from Lehigh, who's a tough freshman, 6-5. And then Claybove lost in the finals to, Rob, I don't know if you know this guy. I'm not familiar with him, but Danny Bertoni from Maryland. He's solid.
I do not know him, but I'll say that Maryland is very improved under Alex Clemson. And, to be honest, that's not saying a whole lot. They're pretty down. I hate to say that, but Clemson's doing a really good job there. I expect them to be competitive very soon.
Yeah, and then moving up, Adam Buziello, who I guess is now at Penn State, wrestled all the way up at 149. The last time I remember reading about him, he was like a 113, 120-pounder in high school. So he's all the way up at 49, and he didn't do so well. Were you able to check out those brackets? I think he went like 2-2.
Yeah, he left a few weeks ago. He came over, and the rumor was he was going to be their 25-pounder, but I think that was put to bed pretty quick. He's very big, but I'm interested to see what happens with him. I'm wondering if his best days are maybe behind him, unfortunately.
I don't know. As a Penn State fan, hopefully not, but we'll see what ends up happening with him. Hopefully maybe gets down a weight class or two and gets back to where he was in high school, because he was a blue-chip recruit coming out. Moving up to 157, John Ross looked good for Lock Haven, ended up getting 2nd, got pinned in the finals by Atinza from Michigan State. So, yeah, there were some teams from far out here at this Edinburgh Open. Oklahoma was there, Michigan State. Not a lot of starters from those schools, but still. Starachi looked good. He had a tech, 2 majors, and then he beat Foca from Cornell 10-3 in the finals. Foca is actually at the Finger Lakes right now, but Foca beat Edmund Ruth in the quarters.
Yeah, Foca's good.
Edmund Ruth, Foca's tough. He was a big recruit. And then Edmund Ruth actually lost to Frankie Guida from Bucknell, so he didn't end up placing, I don't think.
Bucknell.
Yeah, surprising there, Edmund Ruth. I don't think he ended up placing in the bracket, but he's a young guy. He's still got time to figure it out, and he's wrestling with some good coaches and good. He's got Cutler in his weight class, so I'm sure he's getting some good workout partners in the room. And then also interesting, Gavin Hoffman, Ohio State kid, was at 84 this year. Struggled a little bit. He ended up wrestling at the Edinburgh Open, but he was at heavyweight, and he lost in the quarters to a Lehigh kid. and then ended up taking 5th. So, I know, Rob, we talked about at the beginning of the year, we thought weight might have been a struggle for him. So, I don't know, maybe he's just giving it a try, trying to bulk up. I know his brother wrestles heavyweight for Bucknell, so maybe he's going to try to do the same in the future. I'm not sure.
Yeah, or maybe he thinks he's got a shot versus Traub and he can't beat Moore. I don't know, but he's definitely not an 84-pounder, and he might not be a heavyweight long-term, but he's definitely not an 84. So let's shoot over to Pat Pecora. I know he had a big week versus Shippensburg, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately for me, Pat Pecora actually tied the coaching wins record with 616 wins Friday night after UPJ beat Shippensburg 44-0. That is the tied for the most wins in college wrestling coaching history at any division. That was a mouthful, but I think I got it all right. So he is now tied and has an opportunity this Friday against Mercyhurst to become the winningest college wrestling coach of any division of all time. So extremely impressive stat line there. Congrats to Pecora. And that actually leads me into the NA Tiger Wrestling Club trivia question of the week, if you're ready for it, Rob.
Yeah, bring it on.
All right, so it's not necessarily PA related, but, in the spirit of Pecora's accomplishment, when Pecora won that match on Friday, he tied Dale Thomas, who was formerly the sole holder of that record, 616 collegiate coaching wins. Dale Thomas coached from 1957 to 1990 at this Division I wrestling program. This team still exists. Rob, your question is, which team did he coach for? If you have no idea, I'll give you a clue, but let's see you take a stab in the dark first. It's kind of random.
Holy smokes.
1957 to 1990. He coached, let's see here, 10 individual national champs, 116 conference champs, 60 All-Americans.
Central Michigan?
Not a bad guess. It's kind of a program similar to that, I would say, in terms of success. I'll give you a hint. I think they are the furthest Division I wrestling team from Pennsylvania, from where we're at.
Oregon State?
Yes. Good job.
Wow.
Oregon State Beavers, Dale Thomas.
Dale Thomas. Man, how have I never heard of that guy?
I don't know, but that was a pretty good second guess. Nice job. You must have been pretty good at geography.
Yeah. Are they the second, or would Stanford maybe be further away?
I'm thinking they are, because Oregon's above California. It's got to be at least probably 4 or 5 hours north of Palo Alto, I would think.
Arizona State might be further just because it's so far south.
It could be. It could be.
Yeah. We'd have to get the map out. But that was a good question, man. I never would have... I don't think I would have said Oregon State until you gave the geography hint. I think I was done for.
All right, so you ready to jump into our preview?
Yeah, so we got some PSAC action right out the gate. Edinburgh takes on Lock Haven. Lock Haven also takes on Ryder. Some big matches there. We got Segrist versus Oliver. Oliver's starting to catch fire, like we mentioned. He's 4-0 versus Segrist, but they've been pretty competitive. And then Corey Hazel versus Mulligan. Mulligan doesn't have that marquee win just yet, and Hazel's only 8-6. So this is a big turning point match for each of these guys. And then versus Ryder, got Trapea from Ryder, who's tough, versus Luke Warner, a guy we're both big fans of. Peter Lipari, number 25 versus number 22, Shoop. Number 7, Del Vecchia versus Clucker. And then Dean Sherry versus Segrist. Sherry won that match in the duel last year, 18-16. So there could be some fireworks there. Tristan, anything that you really like?
I'd like to see Oliver keep winning. He's, I think, like we said last week, he's on a pretty good win streak right now, I believe. I don't think he's lost in a couple weeks. He's like 12, 14 match win streak now. He's really climbing the ranks and doing a good job, so good for him. And Shoop Lipari could be a good one. And then your boy Luke Werner on the Intermat poll is now in the top 10, Rob. I don't know if you saw that. He's ranked 8th in the country.
No, man, he's a stud. He's an absolute stud.
Yeah, and then Edinburgh also takes on Davidson. I don't know if you said that, but that should be probably a pretty easy win for them.
Yeah, no, I think so. Bloom takes on Sacred Heart in VMI. Sacred Heart's actually 6-3 on the year. They're pretty improved. Their best guys are probably 84 in heavyweight. Kyle Davis is their 84, who's not terrible. He'll take on Allard. So similar pedigrees. This Kyle Davis kid, I've never watched him wrestle, admittedly, but he seems like he gets better every year. So kind of like an Allard, like we said. Columbia versus Drexel. Jarrell was back in the lineup last week. Columbia just lost to Hofstra, so maybe Drexel can get back on the right track here, though they're a little bit dinged up themselves. North Carolina State. We're going to have Hayden Hidley versus AC Headley, and then Trent versus Mazzara. listen, I know we're not supposed to pick sides, 2 PA guys between Hidley and AC Headley, but I think Headley might be in a little bit of trouble here the way that Hidley's looked.
Yeah, Hidley's on a mission right now. I mean, ever since he lost to that, to Deacon at Vegas, he's been tearing people up. And like we said with the Romani match, even guys he usually has somewhat closer matches to, he's racking up a lot of bonus points. So all PA match there, but you'd have to say Hayden's obviously a heavy favorite. And then UVA is going to be taking on Pitt. Are you going to be present at that match, Rob, or was that your appearance there last week strictly related to the North Allegheny function?
I'll have to look. I mean, it's 20 minutes down the road for me, so it's not a bad drive. It's only a few miles. It's just, there's no easy way to get there. But I might stop down. There's some good matches here, though. I like 57. I like Romani versus McCoy, Young Buck versus Old Bull. Who do you like there?
Oh, man, tough. I think McCoy started out the year pretty solid as a freshman, and then he's taken his lumps a little bit here. I mean, that's to be expected, though. He's run into some buzzsaws like the likes of Hayden Hidley. And then Romani is a guy that coming into the year I would have thought would be a top 10 guy right now, and he hasn't had quite the year he's expected. So it'll be a good one. I don't know. I guess I'm going to go out on a limb and say the veteran guy, Romani, but I don't know. I could definitely see McCoy stepping up and getting that win for UVA.
Yeah, that should be a tight duel. I think there's some matches that are toss-ups, and we'll see what happens there. There's a lot of ex-Pitt or a lot of ex-Virginia guys at Pitt. Gavin spent a year at Virginia. Obviously, Jordan Lean was there, and then Philippi, so I'm sure Virginia wants to win that one. Pitt, they also take on Davison as well. Tough weekend for Davison coming up north. Nebraska-Purdue, probably the match, I shouldn't say that, but one of the matches I'm most forward to is Labriola versus Leidy. They've battled a bunch this year. Leidy got him at Vegas, and then Labs got him last year. Did you see that team point that Labriola gave up last week? I thought it was kind of corny. He barely slammed his headgear in excitement, and they took a team point.
No, I didn't see that. Was that in the which duel was that in?
Versus Ohio State when he took down
Romero.
His kid, Romero.
No, I didn't even see that. I don't really understand the refs' calls with the I've seen them call in sportsmanlike, and sometimes they take a team point and sometimes they don't. I guess it just depends on if it's, flagrant or not. I'm not sure. I don't really understand. I've seen guys at the D2 and the D3 level and, the matches we've wrestled at Ship, guys slam their headgear and the ref will call like an unsportsmanlike, but doesn't take a team point. But then, like we talked about with AC Headley a few weeks ago, like chucked his headgear and got a team point. I just don't really understand what the there doesn't really seem to be a method to that.
Yeah, I don't know if maybe it's a new emphasis they're putting on. Headley it was ridiculous. He just chucked it over to the side very calmly. Nothing belligerent, nothing like that, and they took the point, which I thought was a little bit absurd. But yeah, maybe these refs are I don't know, headgear lives matter too. Who knows? Penn State, they head up to the Midwest. They're going to face Minnesota and Wisconsin. I mean, the match right away, RBY versus Gross. If that happens, that's fireworks. Nick Lee versus Moran. They split last year. I think Lee's on a different level, but Moran, when he's on, he could be a real pain in the butt to wrestle. Chenzo and Wick, could you believe they've never wrestled Tristan? I'm actually kind of shocked to see that.
Yeah, I couldn't believe you wrote that stat when you whipped up this outline, but that'll be interesting. I think Chenzo is going to win that one. He looks about as good as anyone right now, especially after that win over Marinelli. But Wick is very unorthodox and very long, can pretty much cradle you from any position. So and Chenzo has given up a lot of height advantage to him. So it'll be an interesting style matchup, but I definitely see Chenzo pulling that one out.
And then Neville's has a tough weekend. He takes on Gable and Hilger. Nick Lee takes on Mitch McKee as well, and then Hall versus Skatska. I think Penn State's going to get back on track here. How do you see this match with Gross going? RBY is tough, man. I think he can go with anyone.
Honestly, after I watched him wrestle DeSanto, I think RBY is maybe the best guy in the country in this weight class.
Ooh.
I don't want to jump the gun too soon, but I was super impressed with him. I was super impressed by the way he was so poised and just went out there, capitalized. He had a really good game plan, stuck to it. And Gross and DeSanto have obviously split this year. There was a match there where Gross lost to DeSanto where he didn't necessarily look his best. So I don't know. I'm just saying at any day, RBY right now could be the best guy in the country at this weight class.
No, I agree. He's right there with anyone. Penn and some Ivy League battles take on Cornell and Columbia. Matches like there is Doug Zapp versus Noah Bachman and Cole Urbis versus Ben Darmstadt. Both pretty similar styles. Long guys, good on top. Bucknell, they'll take on Binghamton and American. Those are two matches. They're probably pretty close dual meets. Trempe came back last weekend. It'll be interesting to see Darren Miller wrestle him. And then Matt Colonia, who I think is a sleeper for the Bison, taking on Keyshawn Clark, who's an absolute buzzsaw. So be curious to see how he holds up there. Iowa, Michigan, obviously this is a little bit watered down with Michigan's red shirts. Not sure if DeSanto is going to compete or not. Keenan Storr and Lugo, neither are PA guys, but they just put Keenan Storr back on the lineup. Is that weird, Tristan? Why would they pull him out after having him redshirt? It doesn't make much sense to me.
Honestly, I'm not sure. I was thinking the same thing, but if I was a guy like Keenan Storr, the 149 weight class is kind of wide open right now. Not to say that, excuse me, he's necessarily on the level of somebody like Sasso or Lugo, but I think he's a guy that is a pretty, I don't want to say clear-cut All-American, but I think he's ranked 8 or 9, and he definitely has a solid chance of All-Americaning in that weight class right now. So, I mean, it's kind of similar to how people were talking about how there's a chance that Ironman might get pulled out just because, I don't know, I guess they thought, you know, with guys like Yanni out, maybe this is his year to win it. I don't really know, but all I'm saying is if you're just looking at the weight class and who's ranked in it, maybe Storr is thinking, you know, after guys like Kaladzik and some of these other guys that are doing Olympic red shirts right now, who knows, maybe filling back in the weight class, maybe he's thinking this is his year to really rise high up on that podium. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, what does it take them as a team from 6th in the Big Ten to 5th? Like, I just don't see the upside. Who knows? I mean, from a coaching perspective, I get it. Like, you might want to get rid of that money. Like, if you're giving them a full ride, and there's some guys you want to recruit in 2 years, I get one to clear house a little bit. But it just seems odd to that be the plan, then pull them out. But who knows? I mean, there's probably something going on behind the scenes that we're not aware of, or maybe not. Northwestern Ohio State, unfortunately, haven't seen Yaya Thomas out there for Ohio State. I assume that the PA boys are going to roll here pretty easily. And then Iowa State, Oklahoma, we have the Waltko Train Bowl to some degree. Jake Woodley, number 15, likely taking on Francis Dugan, who made a stop here at North Allegheny on his world tour. Great guys. I'm looking forward to watching them compete.
Yeah, so is Dugan solidified that spot now, or is it still him and Shapiro battling it out? Because I don't know which one we'll see.
It seems they've been battling it out, and I'm such a nerd, I go on their forum. The fans seem a lot more impressed with Dugan. They say at least there's some fight there. I mean, I know the kid fairly well. He's got a lot of talent, and he could be really good if he just puts it together in some other places. But yeah, I think the fans there seem to think that he's their best option. Not that the fans always are right, but they seem pretty happy with him comparatively.
Are you Super Rob PA on the Cyclones forum as well?
I don't post. I just read. I went to post on
Strictly Spectator.
Yeah, I went to post on the Hawkeye forum once, but I think you have to pay for it, and I was like, I'm not doing that crap. But yeah, I check out the Rutgers forum, Penn State, Iowa State. Those are some active ones I like to read.
Well, what do you say we dial up our guest this week? Featured guest is Mike Evans, 3-time All-American from Iowa.
Yeah, let's check him out. Okay, now we're joined by Mike Evans. Mike, of course, is a 3-time All-American from the University of Iowa, currently an assistant coach at Campbell, and is from Pennsylvania, wrestled at Cumberland Valley High School. Mike, thanks for coming on. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Not too bad, man. So, Mike, obviously you've been at Campbell for a few years, and you've been coaching since you graduated. Was that something you always planned on doing, or when did you know that you wanted to be a coach, at least for the immediate future after college?
I actually knew in college that I wanted to be a coach. Originally, I was a communications major, but to be honest with you, Tom and Terry and the whole coaching staff and the whole organization, at Iowa really inspired me to go out and I don't know, coach and give back to the sport that has given a lot to me, and I really love the sport, and I love being around it, and I love wrestling around and still kind of training a little bit with the guys, so it's an easy fit for me.
Mike, what's it like specifically coaching with Colat? Like you said, you were with the Brands for a long time. You went to Cal Poly for a year, and then you came back to Campbell with Colat. He's kind of a legendary figure in PA wrestling, and he's definitely an intense guy. What's it been like coaching with him?
Oh, it's been a slam dunk. He's similar minded to me, so I can understand how how he thinks a little bit. He understands how I think a little bit, and really we have a whole coaching staff that's like that. Everybody gels really well together. But it's been a real honor and a pleasure to coach under Terry and watch his approach to how he runs things, and it's been a real adventure learning from him. He's intense, like the Brands guys. He's intense, but he's a different kind of intense, and that's good. So
you mentioned intensity. Do you feel that you have the same intensity as a coach? Obviously, the Iowa guys are all about that. You were about that as a competitor, or is it different?
Yes and no. I think every coach out there kind of feels that, every time they get a guy that goes out there that they have a lot of time and effort invested into, they're almost out there wrestling with them. But at the same time, we're not. So we're a lot of time emotionally drained rather than physically drained. But I am pretty intense. I probably yell at the refs a little too much. I mean, shame on me, but I want the best for my guys and I want them to win. So yeah, it kind of carries over.
Kind of a little bit off topic or not planned, but you mentioned yelling at the refs. Are there any calls that you would change if you had the authority to, wave a magic wand over college wrestling?
Oh, no. I think Kerry has actually, a couple of good ideas about this. It's difficult on them. The rules change every year, and then they add the drop down rule, and they add the head and the arm, and then draping and this, that, and the other. Those are all good rules. Just trying to increase the action of the sport. But one good idea that Kerry had that I actually want to kind of get out there is, what about a 3-point takedown? You see a lot of matches where a guy's doing all the work in the world, he's takedown, escape, takedown, escape, takedown, escape, and then the other guy just sneaks one takedown in and he's in the match. If we're going to keep changing rules and trying to make the sport more exciting, I think a 3-point takedown would really help that. But then again, I can't take all the credit. Kerry came up with that one.
Your whole career, high school, you spent time at CV, Blair, obviously went to Iowa. 3 programs that I think are top of the top in their respected states or countries. Then you go to Campbell, where you have a coach that's been at the top, but the program maybe hasn't. What was the difference there, and was that different for you being around a program that maybe didn't have the tradition that CV, Blair, and Iowa do?
It's constantly changing. Every year our guys just think a little bit more of themselves. They get a little more aggressive, and they want more out of themselves. That's kind of the mentality you're talking about. We started off, Kerry started off, there was only 12 guys on the team, and they're taking five out for duels, and they're going 0 and 14 or whatever it is for the year. Iowa, they had some intensity. They have the guys, but it's tradition here and there. It's a lot easier to keep the train rolling. It's a lot harder to get it out of the station. And Kerry's done a really good job of, getting the right staff in there, getting the right guys, those first couple years. And now we've just exploded to where we have guys who want to go out there and compete. We have guys, with that same kind of intensity, the same kind of mentality. But also they're taking it to a different level. They're going to class, they're doing all sorts of crazy things I would never even expect or even try to do when I was competing. So hats off to them. But really it all comes back to the guys. The guys wanted to invest in themselves, and they wanted to get better, and they wanted to, to get something, out of their college wrestling experience. So, they're the guys out there getting their hands raised. We're just helping them along the way.
Mike, bouncing topics a little bit, people who are watching college wrestling right now, watching Iowa, they're seeing guys like Michael Kimmer and Spencer Lee, and, they're seeing more PA kids make their way out there. You and Josh Jeva went there the same year from Pennsylvania, and you guys were kind of rare because not a whole lot of guys were doing that at that time. I guess, what was it about Iowa and maybe the Brands that attracted you originally? And then how much of a part did you have in kind of luring more Pennsylvania kids out that way?
That's kind of a funny question. I got a little funny snippet for you. So, when I was getting recruited, I had a few college coaches in my house. and they all had a different spiel. But when Tom came, he was he wasn't. Well, all these college coaches were going to beat Iowa. We're going to beat Iowa, and Tom was saying, we're going to beat the Russians. So I really like that, but that's kind of funny. I'm not really too sure. I think we were just two PA guys who were, maybe trying something a little different. The fan base and the intensity of the program and, the accolades of the program, that's an easy sell. Making the trip all the way out there, that's, to be honest with you, that's a testament to, those guys, building that pipeline. Making, getting out in the cars and, taking flights and just getting out and seeing those guys.
In terms of coaching, you mentioned that you got inspired being around those guys and you knew you wanted to be a coach in college. Any lessons that you learned from them or that you carry through day to day now that maybe you picked up in that room?
Oh, man, there's a ton of lessons. I can go everything from finishing a single leg to leaving no stone unturned. I tell you one that probably sticks with me is, patience. I'm a little bit of a hothead. And, I gave Tom all sorts of fits, but he was patient with me. And one thing that, stuck with me is he believed in me, a lot of times, even though when he was reprimanding me or, shaking his finger at me, he was still, all about Mike Evans. And that's kind of something I like to think I do well, in my own coaching career. Once you're Campbell and, especially if you're around my weight class, you're my guy. I wish the best for these guys and I'd fight tooth and nail for them. So I like to think that kind of carried over and I picked that up from Tom.
That segues nicely into my next question. I was going to ask you about specifically, Campbell is definitely a program on the rise, but guys like Andrew Morgan and Quentin Perez and even the heavyweight Hino, they're all big guys. They all jump out to me as being, some of the most improved guys over the last few years in the whole country. What about those guys have you been able to really specifically work with to get them to improve so much?
They get to see somebody that they've seen on TV, right in front of them, and they realize, okay, this guy's just a person. You know what I mean? A lot of guys get shell-shocked, wrestling a different color singlet than maybe he's on the Big Ten a lot, this, that, and the other. But really, you got to tell these guys, well, they don't have to tell them anymore because they're up in the rankings and all that, and they're winning big matches. But people, guys are just guys, It doesn't matter what kind of singlet you have on. It matters how you approach the match and how you train and how you prepare. And if you do that above everybody else, you're going to be getting your hand raised. And once guys started thinking that and they started putting the work in and believing in themselves a little bit, you started to see some good results. And those guys that you mentioned, like Quentin Perez, Andrew Morgan, Hino, Josh Heil, he's another one on there. I mean, we got them scattered all throughout the lineup, and those are the guys that you see poking through, or the guys that, when you open the door, they're in there. And those are the guys that maybe you got to pull the reins back a little bit and say, hey, let's be a little smart. Let's not, let's lay off just a little bit today. You got to think about the future a little bit. But these guys are excited to train. So it's a good problem to have.
So, Mike, talk a little bit about, I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing it right, but is it Bowie's Creek, North Carolina, where Campbell is?
Yes, sir. Bowie's Creek, North Carolina, about 45 minutes south of Raleigh, just outside Lillington.
I know when ODU, we wrestled there one time, and, we were just driving on like a back road for like an hour, and then suddenly we were just there. We just saw the big camel out front of the college. So, it's kind of a remote area. But knowing you personally for a while, you're a big outdoors guy. Is that kind of a natural fit for you, for your lifestyle and stuff?
Yes. Yeah, I do like the outdoors a little bit, but, I also like the nice weather too. It is a little gem in the middle of nowhere. When you described it perfectly. You're driving these back roads, and then you kind of pop out into the the clearing, and there's Campbell University. And they, the university's done a great job of, building the university. I mean, I think they put a new building up almost every year since Kerry's been here, at least he says, and same with my tenure. And it's a beautiful campus. I mean, we got a state-of-the-art wrestling room, and they got a new rec center that's going to be finished in about a month. and it's great. It's a great environment.
That kind of rural setting almost reminds me of a place that would be good for Pennsylvania kids. Obviously, you got you and Carrie on the staff. Do you guys make a lot of effort to come up to recruit out in Pennsylvania? I feel like it would be kind of a natural fit. There's a lot of, areas like that in the state up here in the Keystone State.
Yeah, I mean, we do like to go up there. There's a lot of competition for the Pennsylvania guys, but, I mean, that's where the best wrestling is right now. But, I mean, we get guys from all over. We have had guys from Montana. We've had guys from Alaska, California, Arizona. I'll tell you what, those Alaska boys, they sure are tough.
What's the pitch when you guys are recruiting these guys, Mike? You're getting guys from all over the country. I mean, how do you get them on campus? How do you get them to stay?
It's kind of simple. We're looking for that hard-nosed kid, who maybe wants to get out a little bit, because to be honest with you, if you want to be successful, you got to be a little uncomfortable. Look at it physically training yourself. You go run a mile and it starts to become easy. Well, then your time should be, decreasing. You should be feeling that hurt a little bit. That's how you train. I mean, and it carries over to, your mentality a little bit. You got to feel a little uneasy. Eventually you get over that uneasiness, but you got to put yourself in new environments that challenge you. We're looking for that hard-nosed kid who wants to feel uncomfortable, because we know he'll feel uncomfortable when he's training. Excel, it's easy. We got a competitive program that, going it's just going up. The guys are getting tougher and tougher. They're climbing the ladder. I mean, we had a good win the other week against Iowa State. This past weekend we faced Oregon State. We're seeing all the best competition in the country. We go out the Midlands, we hit Vegas, Navy Classic. We're all over. We're hitting everybody. So the wrestling's there. That side is there. We got a brand new room that's I'll have to send you some pictures. It's pretty sharp. We got 3 full mats, a cardio room, conference coaches' offices. We gave the guys some new lockers with some LEDs in them. They're pretty sharp. So that's there. But then, you double that with, an awesome education. You got guys, taking Homeland Security and getting internships with the FBI. You got Wealth and Trust Management, which is like a 4+1 program. We're the only college in the country, to my understanding, that offers it. And that's a 4+1, and you can get your master's in 5 years, and little things like that academically, where, you're going to be competing for, 4 years and redshirting for a 5th. Those kind of plans really attract people. You're setting yourself up for both success on the mat and success once you get through college.
No, that's great, man. And certainly you guys are a program that is on the rise, doing great stuff. I mean, 10 years ago, I don't think I'd be giving much effort into talking about Campbell wrestling, but it seems like I'm checking your guys' scores out every week.
Yeah. A lot of that really is, Carrie, the first couple of years, really, setting the tone with the room and working hard and setting the building blocks that, got the train rolling and pushed us out of the station a little bit. So, I mean, if you're going to attribute that to anything, you got to look at him first.
Absolutely. A lot of credit to Colat, and also a lot of credit to you, Mike. I know you're not going to give yourself a pat on the back here, but like I said, some of Campbell's best guys on the team right now are some of these big guys that I'm sure you're working with every day. So congrats to your guys' whole program, and obviously we wish you the best of luck the rest of the year. I'm sure a lot of fans nationwide are going to be seeing some orange singlets wrestling on day 3 at Nationals. So wish you the best of the luck. Anything else you want to say here before we let you go?
Hey, no, man. I appreciate you having me on. And
awesome, man. Thanks a lot. We appreciate it. Good luck to you guys the rest of the year.
Hey.
All right, and we just got done speaking with Mike Evans, my former high school teammate at Cumberland Valley. Ended up going to Blair in Iowa, was a 3-time All-American at Iowa, and now a very successful coach for the Campbell Camels, who are really turning it up and have some really successful guys. We wish him the best of the luck. Him and Carrie Colat doing big things down there in Bowie's Creek. And, Rob, that's going to wrap it up for us for episode 15. As always, thanks, everybody, for listening. Please go ahead and give us a like or a share on social media. Spread the word about the PA Power Wrestling College Podcast. For Rob Waltko, I'm Tristan Warner. Signing off. We'll see you guys next week.